The men's rights movement, as it exists today, is based on a couple of different ideas. The most obvious of these ideas is that there is a great deal of injustice and bigotry and institutional bias against men in society. Now, of course, this is the thing that gets howls of protest from feminists, or as we call them, social conformists, because we do live in a feminist-informed society. Oh, man, being a man is like playing the game of life on the easy setting. Really? Well, then why are there so many fucking male homeless? Like, depending on who you ask, between 65 and 95% of the homeless are men. Why are men 4 out of 5 suicides? Why do men die earlier? Etc., etc. It's like, why is the mutilation of a male child's genitals normal and accepted, while the mutilation of a female child's genitals is quite rightly viewed as monstrous and correctly called mutilation? Now, each of these issues is not debated, except by, psychopaths. It's the collection of issues taken together that you come up with this hypothesis that men have a set of unique and powerful disadvantages in society and biases against them, and then they go, oh, you're a whiny man, baby, blah, 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 why don't you be a real man, etc., etc. So there is this scorn and contempt heaped on men who don't do anything other than keep their head down and get on with the business of providing and caring for other people, being productive for their corporate masters or their wives. But that's the first driving factor of the men's rights movement, of why is the men's rights movement even there? Why does it exist? Well, that's the first and most obvious reason. The second driving factor of the men's rights movement is a belief among MRAs that the women of the world are humane, have empathy. And that's a myth. Whether it's true or not, we're going to set that aside. It is a cultural myth. And I don't mean, when I say a cultural myth, a false myth. It's just a cultural belief. And it's believed by men's rights activists, among everybody else, that women have empathy, that women are caring, that they are humane, that they can model the emotional state or the pain of another person. And to a limited extent, they can. For example, their children, which psychologically is an extension of themselves. But the rhetoric, the argumentation, the anger of the men's rights movement, the demands, are based on an understanding that the women of the world have empathy towards men, towards their brothers, or their husbands, or their fathers, or their sons, or their male colleagues, or their male friends. The belief is that women, deep down, at some level, have a humane recognition of men as fellow human beings. Now, I've been an MRA for 5, 6 years, 8 years, I don't really know. I mean, I gradually became one as a writer of political rants, and I was one before I even realized it, before I knew there was such a thing. And so I am one of the people who's written probably, not the most, but I'm one of the contributors in this movement. And I've been in for a reasonably long time. The belief in female empathy towards men, the belief driving the men's movement that women have compassion towards men, that there is compassion to be tapped into, the recognition of fellow human beings. That belief, based on the evidence of my career as an MRA, is a false belief. When it was pointed out in Toronto to the feminist we commonly call Big Red, who I think calls herself Shanty Binks, that of all the suicides in North America, 4 out of 5 of them are men. Well, what kind of a male-advantaging society do we live in where 4 out of 5 suicides are male? Well, obviously, It's not a male advantaging society, or that stat wouldn't exist. But it was pointed out to her, and her response was to sing sarcastically a few choruses of the song Cry Me a River. That is an overtly sociopathic, or if you prefer, psychopathic response. And that's not unique. It's not a unique response. It's sort of the standard response, not just from women, but from the broader society, which reflects the values of women. This is a feminist society that we live in. Even if you do not self-identify as a feminist, your values are still informed by feminism, by 60 years of it, whether you realize it or not. The men's rights movement, in its rhetoric, in its argumentation, in the anger of men at injustice against them, is based on the belief by those complaining MRAs that women have compassion and empathy for men as fellow human beings. And it's now abundantly clear that that belief is false, because no amount of evidence is going to sway them. All the evidence has been presented over and over, and the rage at injustice from MRAs, and it is at injustice. It's not some unformed, undeserved anger. People do not just get angry because they're angry. They're always angry because of something. The anger is at injustice and at indifference, when pain and human suffering is put in the spotlight, and the response is utter, total, contemptible indifference. Don't care. Shut up. Get back to work, and if you're broken beyond your utility, go fuck off to the curb for the garbage truck to pick you up. The belief in women's empathy, in their compassion, is a false belief. And the men's rights movement as it exists today is a failed experiment. It will not work. The only thing, there's probably other things, obviously I can think of a couple, creating a real culture of hostility to women, etc. The response to neither one of those is men going their own way. That is, men disengaging from a society that treats them as contemptible, subhuman utilities, who, if they are not working for the benefit of others, then can just go fuck off. They don't deserve human rights. They don't deserve the protection of the law against murder. That is why MGTOW is the only real effective tool. And it's not a tool to be used to force society into some change. It might result in that, but that's not why it's important. It's important because MGTOW is a path for every individual man to take care of himself. Because this society doesn't give a fuck about your humanity. It cares only about your utility, and when that is used up, you go to the curb. The city garbage collection will take you to the dump.